Hello everyone, thank you so much for tuning in. Today's video is going to be featuring the SSS June 2018 card kit. I'm only going to be making 3 cards that feature the embossing folder that comes in the kit and the distress resist spray that also comes in the kit. To start off with this card, I don't quite have the measurements, but all I did is I folded the cardstock in half, and this card is actually meant to either be given in a gift bag or hand given. And to start off, I'm using that embossing folder. Now, I didn't think this through, but I would probably have cut that part instead of folding it and causing some creases in the back of this card, but I smoothed them out later. So because the cardstock was a little larger than your average card size, I had to finish off the embossing, putting the embossing folder on the areas that didn't quite get embossed and running that through my die cut machine. Now I'm going to be stamping this large floral arrangement that comes in the large stamp set, and I'm using VersaFine black ink to stamp the flower arrangement, making sure that everything is the ink that is set and that it's not still wet, so that way I can use my Arteza watercolor brush pens. Now, I didn't show the coloring because I wanted to focus on the embossing and resist spray techniques, but these are the colors that I used. And I am not an expert at coloring, so in a way I saved you time from seeing the horrible coloring that I am doing to these flowers. So next, I pretty much cut a little bit towards the bottom half of the front panel, and I have just the leaves hanging away. And then I'm using some Heidi Swapp color Shine in the color Gold on the floral arrangement, and on the front of the card base, the area that I embossed, I am using another Heidi Swapp color Shine in the color Teal. Now, I believe the color Teal has been retired, but Heidi Swapp has several other colors that are similar to the color Shine I used. So next, the flower arrangement panel, I use some foam squares to pop that off the embossing area of the card base. Next, I'm using this Ulta New from my stash. I actually won this in a giveaway, so I wanted to use it somehow, and I thought this card was perfect to bring this stamp in. And I am using the Congrats, and I went ahead and inked it and embossed it with some Wow black embossing powder. And on the inside, I just used the smaller stamps, and I stamped From All of Us, Love and Hugs. So this would be, I was thinking more of a wedding card that you would give in person, or you can put a gift inside a gift bag. And I just love the shine that this card has, both on the card base and on the card panel. So this next card, I am using a watercolor distress paper, and I am going to be embossing this paper using some distress crayons. Now, I wanted to bring some stuff from my stash that I don't normally get to use to make these cards, and I rarely get to use these crayons, so I thought this was a perfect way to use them in these cards. So all I'm doing is running this crayon, I believe this is frayed burlap, onto the front side of the embossing folder and just running that very loosely all over the images. Once I am done, I'm going to be spraying the resist spray inside a box because the resist spray will spray everywhere. So to contain that, I'm using a box. And the resist spray will activate the crayon, and I'm using it here and there, not trying to cover the whole area. And I quickly have to place my paper and run it through the die cut machine because the distress resist spray does act somewhat like a glue, I've noticed, and will peel off parts of the paper if you take too long. So I'm using some tape adhesive and I'm putting that kind of offset to leave a little bit of the blue cardstock showing on the left side. Now I'm using some more of that distress watercolor paper and I am stamping these 3 flowers that come in the stamp set with some VersaFine black ink, making sure the ink is dry. And I am not using the pattern papers, but I use the pattern paper for color inspiration. So I'm using the colors that are in the pattern paper to color the flowers. And so I'm using a couple of these distress crayons, and I'm also using some Arteza watercolor brush pens. So I'm using first the black and a blue. Now my set does not have any names or numbers, so I don't know exactly what the names of these watercolor Arteza brush pens are. I believe the larger set or the newer set that has come out does have names or numbers on them, but mine do not, so I don't have any names to share with you, unfortunately, but the colors are there. So basically all I'm doing is coloring very loosely. I'm getting some water and placing some water around the image, and then grabbing a little bit of the distress crayon with my watercolor paintbrush and moving that around, mixing them with all the other colors that I have already placed to give this watercolor effect and have a different variety of colors on this flower. And I did not want all of the flowers to be the same color, so I'm starting off with a certain color and finishing off with a different color, and then starting off with a completely different color on another flower. So here I'm starting off with like a purple and pink, and then I'm slowly adding some blues and darker shades in the darker shading areas of the flower. The distress crayons can be used with the watercolor brush, rubbing it on the crayon and then placing the color onto the paper, or you can put the crayon directly to the paper and then smudging it with a watercolor brush and some water. Here I am just using some Arteza watercolor paintbrush and then smudging that with some water on my watercolor paintbrush. So I go back and forth until I am happy with the coloring and shading of the flowers. Next, I take those images and stamp them again so that way the lines can be more noticeable because they did kind of fall into the background with all the shading and rubbing that I did. So I did use this Ulta New die that says "You Are Loved," and I went ahead and used that die with the gold mirror paper that comes in the kit and placed that on the top with some fun foam raised above the embossing panel that I have there. And I did use some gold peel offs to finish off the edging of the card. So here is the finished card along with a finished envelope. Next card, I'm using this scrap dark blue navy paper, and I'm running that traditionally to emboss the paper. And next I am moving over to stamped paper, and I used some archival coffee ink to stamp the flower, and I went ahead and used some distress resist spray, and I went ahead and added some splashes onto this panel. And next I am going to use some distress inks, and I'm rubbing them on an acrylic block, and I am just loosely covering the flowers with both colors, going back and forth, back and forth. And as you can see, that distress resist spray will start to resist the ink. After I finished coloring all of these images, I go back to my stamping platform and I stamp it again with the same archival ink. I have a die that says "Love You," and I went ahead and popped that up with some fun foam and used the same gold mirrored cardstock that came in the kit, and I did stamp some flowers on the envelope. I also used some of that Heidi Swapp gold color shine on the blue embossed areas to tie the whole card together. And these are the cards that I was able to make with the card kit. Now I will be doing a giveaway of this 3D embossed folder that comes in the kit. And to enter, please head over to my blog at mommywithahobby.com. The link will be down below, and you can go ahead and submit a comment on this post, and you will be entered to randomly win this 3D embossed folder. Thank you so much, and if you have not already subscribed, you can go ahead and subscribe by clicking my picture, and you can follow me on different social media platforms. See you next time!